Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's geography lesson. My name is Cynthia Zondi, and my co-presenter this afternoon is Rina van Heerden. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Center. Okay, boys and girls, we are now going to look at today's revision for tomorrow's paper, that is your paper 2. And then the topics that we are looking at is rural and urban settlements. We also are going to look at economic geography. And for the map work, we would advise that you should refer to all the other lesson broadcasts that we did previously, as we could not cover that section in today's lesson. Okay, you are writing your NSC final exam paper 2 tomorrow, Tuesday, the 18th of November. And then the duration of the paper is 3 hours, which starts at 9 o'clock and ends at 12 o'clock. The other thing that we want to bring to your attention, the total of the paper is 150 marks. You still have to sit and write for 150 marks. And as per the exam rules, you should be seated in the exam room by 8 o'clock, meaning 8 o'clock you should be seated and not still making your way into the exam room. So today's lesson objective is that at the end of this lesson, you will have an idea on how to prepare best for the NSC final exam that you are going to write tomorrow, Geography Paper 2. And then in this lesson, we are going to look at the following: the layout of the paper, the important aspects that you need to focus on, the example of questions that can be asked. And I will emphasize here that myself and Rina, we don't know what's in the exam paper. Therefore, we are just going through all the content that we could just bring together to present for today's lesson. We don't know what is in the exam room. Then we also are giving you some study tips, as well as some exam writing techniques as per the questions that we are going to use as examples here. Right, how is the paper laid out? You have section A, which is on rural and urban settlement. So for this section, we know that you will most probably have your 1.1, that is either of 7 or 8 marks, which are the short objective questions. And then you also have, you may also have 1.2, that will either be a 7 or 8 marks short objective questions then. Then the source-based question, which is your data response question, which is for 15 marks for 1.3, 1.4, as well as 1.5. So all this is the total of 60 marks, which is your question 1, that is out of the rural and urban settlements, right? For question 2, which is still on section A, you are now going to be tackling questions on economic geography, which is your question 2.1 and 2.2 are your short objective questions with 7 or 8 marks, and in total there is 15 marks. And then your 2.3 and 2.4 as well as 2.5 is your source-based question for 15 marks each. These are your long questions that gives us the total of another 60 marks for question 2. Then you will move on over to your section B, which is your question 3, that is for map work. The layout of question 3 is that 3.1 would be your techniques and calculations for 10 marks. And then with this one, I will just emphasize that you make sure that you do all your calculations, as you cannot guess what the examiners have decided on. And then 3.2 is your map interpretation for 12 marks. And then your GIS 4 for 8 marks. This gives you the total of 30 marks. So, right, this is the breakdown of your paper. That is your section A for 120, and then section B for 30. That gives you the total of 150 marks. Right. These are some of the tips that we're giving you on how to approach a paragraph questions, because with those source-based questions, one of those questions or even more, as we cannot decide for the examiners, it might, it would consist of a paragraph question. So for question 1, there would definitely be a paragraph question, and from question 2 as well, there would be a paragraph question from those data response questions. So your approach for the paragraph question is that you have to underline the main topic of the question. So you read your paragraph question and you underline the main topic, and then you also underline the action words that you are asked in the paragraph, and then the focus area of the question, what exactly you are supposed to respond on. Note that some of the paragraph questions have got 2 aspects, so you may find that the paragraph question has got 2 parts which you must respond into. And for you to be credited the full marks, you must make sure that you attempt both the section of that paragraph question, and all your points there must be explained in 2 equal parts for you to be credited the whole 8 marks there. And then your paragraph question, we are emphasizing this because this is a paragraph. So a paragraph needs full sentences. So you need to write in full sentences, and make sure that you don't you don't repeat rather the facts. So avoid repetition, as you can't be credited on facts that are repeated. So plan your response onto the paragraph question effectively, right? So some of the short objective questions that we are just going to use to revise with you today. It's this question: the grouping of people, building structure, and communication networks that function as a unit. So the option there, it's why it's site, or is it a settlement? So a grouping of people. So this, you bring them all together so that they can give you a clear understanding of the concept. The correct answer there is settlement. Okay, and a wet point, a dry point or a wet point settlement is located high up away from the threat of flooding. So when a settlement is located high up, so you are choosing to settle in the area that is dry to avoid what? To avoid flooding. So the correct answer there is the dry point settlement. And obviously the wet point would be the opposite way now if you want to locate closer to the water source. A piece of land where the settlement is found, is it a site or is it a situation? The correct answer there is a site. A settlement where water is scarce and developed around a water source. So here now, which is the opposite of this question. So we're saying here now, you choose to settle in an area that is closer to a water source. Why? Because there is scarcity of water there. Is that a wet point or a dry point? The correct answer is a wet point. So when you choose closer to the water source because of water scarcity there. And then the shape of the settlement built along the river. So when we have a settlement that is built along a river, is it a crossroad or is it linear? So from the options, this tells you that the part that says cross, it now rules off that answer, and then the correct answer there is a linear. The exact location of a settlement in the physical environment. So when you choose to settle on a site, but you're considering other physical factors around you, is it a situation or is it position? The correct answer is situation. The function of the rural settlement. So rural settlements, are they multifunctional or are they unifunctional? So from the two options, we know that rural settlements are unifunctional, where the focus is only on primary activities there. So those are the answers for that, for those short objective questions. Then here now we've got refer to diagram A and B of the dispersed and nucleated rural settlement patterns. So the two patterns that you should always take into account when you are asked about settlement patterns, it's either dispersed or nucleated. So match the statement with either A or B, and then you would follow the instructions to write only the letter for this. Buildings are widely spaced. So that is the first question there. You should think about your answer in the meantime. And then sharing farming activity, whether is it at A or at B. This settlement, A or B, lacks privacy. Is it A or B? And then this settlement is an easy target for criminals. And then basic services are at a distance or they are far. Easy to socialize. And then the next question is where farming is associated with more or large profit. So as and when I was reading through there, you were making your choices wisely there. Let's see if you were able to score all 7 points for these questions. Okay, the last question there it is. Reduces the need for manual labor and the cost of production. So it's a 8 marks short objective question. Let's see how the answers are laid out onto this one. Buildings are widely spaced. So we can see that these buildings, they are further apart from each other. So the correct answer there is A. Sharing farming equipment or farming tools. So the correct answer is B. So when people are living in this community where they are nucleated or clustered together like that, they are able to share their farming tools. Then it lacks privacy. So these are different households next to one another. So there is no privacy in that kind of a settlement. And then easy target for criminals. This one, mind you, you are the farm owner, you're staying all by yourself there, and there's another farm owner. So you are living in isolation there, therefore you become easy target to criminals. And then basic services are distant or far apart. So each and every farm owner there should make sure that they fend themselves for either the water supply as they live in isolation there. So basic services are at a distance, or even other services that you can access here, you have to travel long distances to access those services there. Easy to socialize, we said we're looking at the proximity of every household to each other there. So in this whole, we're not looking at these clusters in isolation, but for people that are living close to each other like that, they they're easy to socialize. And then where farming is associated with more large profit. So if you are the farmer at this point, you're making your own profit. This farmer also is working on his or her own land, and they don't have to share the profits with anyone. So there's large profits there. And then reduces the need for manual labor at the cost of production. So because these farmers are working on large pieces of land around them there, so there's a way of having to expand your labor by using the machinery. So there is less manual labor. However, you have to invest on big machines that will help you ease the farming activity there. And then we also are looking at this type of exam question. Match the statement in the sketches below, write only the correct letter, A to G. So what we have here, we've got different shapes of settlements, and therefore you have to match each of the statement to this settlement. A settlement that is located away from water because of the danger of flooding. So when you look at all these settlements, there's A, there's B, C, D, E, F, O, or G. Which of this settlement do you think is correct to match the statement where we are looking at the settlement that is located far away from water because of danger of flooding? Okay, and then the next one, a settlement that is located near the water source. We must look at the pictures closely and carefully and analyze what is happening there. A settlement that is located closer to the water source or near the water source. Okay, let's look at the other questions. A settlement where farmers most likely can experiment and use modern equipment extensively. Point 4, an example of a crossroad settlement. Which settlement there is an example of a crossroad settlement? A settlement that follows a road or a river in a linear shape. A cultural feature is usually the focal point of these types of rural settlement. So there is a focal point or the center, there is a point that is found at the center of the settlement. Which type of rural settlement shape is this? And then a settlement where fertile or flat land has caused the nucleated pattern to be irregular. So we're looking at where farmers look at the fertile soil, or maybe there is flat land, and therefore people choose to settle there in a nucleated pattern. All right. So you have made up your mind with those statements and have noted your answer as I was reading each of those questions. So a settlement that is located away from water because of the danger of flooding, of which we have mentioned that type of a settlement. We said it would be a dry point settlement. But then when you look at these pictures, which one would that be? Okay, we can see there's a river that is flowing there, and then there's the set of houses that we can identify there at the top of this mountain there. So it's uphill, so people chose to settle there to avoid flooding. It wouldn't be wiser to settle at the foot of that hill or mountain there. And then a settlement that is located near the water source, it's D. When you look at this picture, there's an oasis there, and then people's houses are closer to that oasis. Right, let's look at the next statement. A settlement that is located away from water because of the, okay, it's a repeat of what we have done. Let's look at number 3, a settlement where farmers most likely can experience and use modern equipment. So there's an extensive use of the equipment or modern equipment there. And this is the settlement where we've got farmers being dispersed and there's ample space to use the machinery there. An example of a crossroad settlement, we're looking at B. When you look at B, there's the road that's moving in that direction, and then there's another road that's coming there. So people have chosen to settle at this junction point there. So it's a crossroad settlement, a settlement that follows a road or a river in a linear shape. So this would be the ideal one. We can see the houses there that are along there, the road or the river there. So the factor that is determining the shape there, it's the road. And then a cultural feature is usually at the focal point of this type of rural shapes. So when you look at this diagram, you can see that, okay, it could be the chief's household that is in the center there, or it could be some of the focal point area where everybody has to converge to. So that feature, it could be anything that is of cultural. As I mentioned, that it could be the in the villages where the chief's household is at the center, and then people are spread around that, and then that is at A there. And then a settlement where the fertile or flat land has caused the nucleated pattern to be irregular. So we see the nucleated pattern there, but this pattern is irregular. So that is option C there. So for 7 marks, that's what we agree on for those statements, right? We've got this sketch below that is showing rural-urban migration, which is one of the rural settlement issues there. So the first question, when you look at before you can attempt, you must study the picture there, where you can see that it says home sweet home, and then when we look at that, it says megatropolis, and then we can see the tall buildings that we can identify there, and then everybody packed up with their bags. They are all following one another in that direction to where? To the city there. And then one other thing that we also need to take note, this megatropolis, it has reduced the distance from being at 50 kilometers, 30 kilometers, and now for you to leave the rural areas and you become part of the settlement, now you have to travel about 10 kilometers. And then it says here, we are waiting for the city to come to us. So literally it says the city would be growing towards the rural areas because of more of the expansion of the city there. What is rural-urban migration? It's a concept there. State the distance that the people in the sketch have to travel to reach the urban area. Give 2 social push factors that would encourage people to migrate to the urban areas. That would be a 4 marks there. And then we know when it's 2 by 2, it means you have to mention 2 factors there, either than that is also mentioned in the question there. Then let's look at the other sets of questions. I've looked at the diagram. Why has the distance to the urban area decreased for 4 marks? Explain 2 sustainable strategies that could be implemented to encourage people to remain in the rural areas. So we're looking at what? Sustainable. So it has to be something that can really be of an effect for over quite a lengthy period of time. So it's not something that it could just be given as a short-term plan to encourage people to remain in the rural areas. We want sustainable strategies there. Right. Then how do you respond to this question? It's a concept, as we have indicated. You may have it differently, but it refers to the movement of people from rural to urban areas. So take note, it's from rural to urban areas there. State the distance that people in the sketch have to travel to reach the urban area. So can you see that the distance has been cancelled out? 50 is cancelled out and 30 is cancelled out. Now to get to the city or the urban area there, it's now 10 kilometers. So that is the correct answer there. Then looking at the next question, give two social push factors that would encourage people to migrate to urban areas. So what is it that it's a social issue that makes people to migrate to the urban areas? When they are in the rural areas, what are they facing? They're facing hard work and there's low wages. So that is a push factor. And then poor quality housing. So when you respond to this question, you try by all means to respond on the effect of what is in the question. Don't bring in the pull factors. Bring in what is a push factor there. Poor quality housing. Traveling long distance to access services. The cost of living increases due to goods and services becoming more expensive. There's high crime rate in the rural areas. And then also there is poverty. So all these are the push factors. That's what makes people to migrate. And then there's also unemployment. This is one other answer that you will notice that in most of the questions that has to do with social and economic, we don't leave it out. So unemployment, lack of jobs, that to that effect, it's what you need to think about always. And then it becomes the basics of your answer. And you'd find that once you are able to mention this, some of the answers that can come after would be linked to the fact that there is lack of jobs. Therefore, people would live in poverty. And then if there's poverty, I mean, if people are not working, it means they cannot afford quality houses. So what is the status there? People live in poor quality houses. Right. Then why has the distance to the urban area decreased? So it's moved from 50, now it's 10 kilometers. So why? It's because the city has expanded. So the city expands due to more people living in it. So when the city expands, remember also the build-up area also expands. It means people are now building outward towards the outskirts of the city center, and therefore that brings the city closer. And it's also because of the urbanization, which causes the city to expand, the percentage in which the number of people live in the urban areas there. Natural population growth. So we cannot expect that with all the migration that is happening, the cities that we have, like Johannesburg, would still be in its old plan as it was in the early years. So that then brings to the point that the city is increasingly spreading outward. So, and it's also due to the natural population growth that leads to the city to expand. There's too many people that we can find there, and therefore it expands outward. Why has the distance to the urban area decreased? It's immigrants and refugees from other countries have come and they live in cities now. That causes it to expand, because they don't just come and stay in that small scale area. They move outward in terms of the buildings there. So the outward spread of the city, which is your urban sprawl, due to the rapid expansion of the city, commercial decentralization, even the shopping malls and other businesses, they move out of the city center, and that also extends or shortens the distance between the rural area and urban area. So those are the answers there. Explain 2 sustainable strategies that could be implemented to encourage people to remain in rural areas. So we want sustainable strategies that would make people to remain in the rural areas. The land reform, we know that that is one of the strategies that would give people the land to work on, which they were previously disadvantaged of. So land reform should be accelerated so that people could gain land ownership. So it is happening, but it's happening at a snail pace. So therefore, if it is accelerated, then people can own land. Improve infrastructure to accelerate economic growth. So improvement of infrastructure there, create more job opportunities to grow the economy. So all these are your sustainable strategies that we are suggesting, including these: providing basic services to improve quality of life through the multiplier effect. So if there's one service that would lead to the link or the development of others, that is what we talk about there, the multiplier effect. If we have schools that are built, that means that there will be more job opportunities that are created from the transportation or even the businesses that are linked to a school. So any provision of a basic services that will have a link to other businesses, there it can lead to economic growth. Improve working conditions and salaries, recreation as well as tourism, promotion of rural lifestyle, education and training to the upcoming farmers, funding of agricultural activities for farmers to continue farming. So we're suggesting that if this could be put in place, then that would be a sustainable strategy to keep people in the rural areas. Right, we're moving on to rural depopulation, as it's indicated there. So rural urban migration and rural depopulation, you should take note that there is a link between the two, because when there is rural urban migration, that is the resultant of why now we will have rural depopulation. So all the factors that are linked to people leaving the rural areas and moving to urban areas would have the resultant thereof being rural depopulation. So there will be some form of rural depopulation. There is a case study there, so I will not read the whole case study. However, what I want to highlight is that in this, you must read your case studies and use it to assist you in accessing some of the answers that may be asked there. So you look at the statement, for an example, already it's telling you what is rural depopulation. You look at the effects, which is your economic stagnation that is experienced, that would result due to that, and then environmental degradation, and then also the other factors that leads to why do we have this stagnation. It's because of the policymakers or even the local communities that are exacerbating the problem there. And then when you look at the graph, it's showing us the how there is an effect of rural depopulation between the years 1950 and we can say as projected to 2050, but we are within the proximity of what is happening in the 2030 year there. So the graph is showing that projection of what would be the status in some years to come there. And then looking at the questions, define the concept rural depopulation. So can you see why I was saying that it's important for you to read what's in the text? Because you may find that you will scratch your head and then try to think what is that, only to find that the answer is in the text or the source document, diagram that you are given. There for 2 marks, then define that concept. What trend is shown by the world or urban? Okay, what trend is shown by the world urban population migration pattern in the graph above between the years 1990 and 2020? So between this particular period to 2020, when you look at the graph, what trend do you observe or is shown there in terms of the migration pattern? Then on to the next question, discuss the 2 push factors that cause people to leave the rural areas. So can you see when I spoke about the concept of rural urban migration and rural depopulation, you may find that you are lucky enough to use the same kind of answers in different sets of questions there, because it would require the same facts. Facts are facts. If we're saying that why do we have rural depopulation, it's because of lack of jobs, for an example. And then when we look at why do we have people migrating from rural areas to urban areas, it's because there's more job opportunities in the urban areas. But if the question is asked in the effect of the push factor, then you will indicate the same to say that there is lack of jobs in the rural areas. So such concepts are then interlinked there. In a paragraph of approximately 8 lines, explain the effects of rural urban migration on rural areas. So we have this happening, and therefore when rural urban migration happens, explain the effects of it. So for 8 marks there, it's a paragraph. Right, let's look at how we would best look at these questions. Defining the concept of what rural depopulation is. It is a decrease in number of people living in rural areas. It's a concept, so anything to this effect would be correct. What trend is shown by the world urban population migration pattern in the graph above between 1990 and 2020? So we're looking at the graph that is showing us the world population migration pattern between the year 20 and that. So when we mark off this, this is where the year of 1990 is, and this is the year where 2020 is. So when you look at this graph, what trend do you see there? So the trend is that between those years, there is an increase in the migration pattern in the world. Right, then looking at that, discuss 2 push factors that cause people to leave rural areas. Lack of jobs in rural areas, there's low wages, there's low salaries, there's a rising production cost in farms, lack of basic services, the rising poverty levels, natural disasters, like drought, for an example, you can mention that, which then affects what? It affects the farming community. Unrest and lack of security. If you are maybe living in that isolated farm, then there's crime. That's where now you would feel threatened and you would abandon the farming activities. Food insecurity, when there is lack of nutritious food to feed people. Reduced agricultural production, which can be due to those natural disasters or some kind of some diseases that can affect either the crops or the livestock. Mechanization in rural areas, Lack of government subsidies. When farmers don't have capital, then it means their production will drop. Slow pace of finalizing land reform. So some people, they've given up because it takes years and years for their land ownership to be finalized. Lack of entertainment, which then explains why there's more of elderly people that are left behind. The youth leaves to stay in the urban areas. Lack of higher educational institution in rural areas. So everybody would be looking up into coming into cities because of the better institutions there. Right, your paragraph questions, the effects of rural-urban migration. You are explaining the effects of rural-urban migration. Where on rural areas? So you must read your question carefully, as I have indicated that you mark off there the keywords, you underline them. So we're looking at the verb, which is you're explaining what? The effects of what? Of the rural-urban migration. Where? On rural areas. So on rural areas, what is going to happen? There will be closing down of businesses, and then some of the towns there in rural areas will develop into ghost towns. The resources, they become underused or underutilized. Production in the farms, it decreases. Aging of population because all the youth leaves, and then the standard of living, it's decreasing there. And then there is also the challenge of brain drain. So this would give you your 4 marks. From all those easy points, you would have scored your 8 marks. But we also have other answers that we can also integrate there. Results in food insecurity. There is abandonment of the farmers or the neglecting of farmers, leaving the farms behind, the farmers. Reduction in service provision. So there's lack of services, your health, your education, it's not well provisioned there. People travel long distances for services. If you need to go to a clinic or whatsoever, you travel long distances, or to access even the school. This investment, withdrawal of the investment. So when there is no need for the businessmen to find interest in then it also brings down the rural areas there. Family units are broken because mostly it would be males that will leave their wives behind, or boys, they would leave their parents there. So the family units or the bonds are broken. So any 4 of these factors can answer that paragraph question, right? The other aspect of rural settlement we're looking at is social justice issues. Okay, so with this question, it says, refer to the case study below showing a social injustice. Remember, we would look at what is it that we are referring to as an injustice? What is it that is unfair to the people that are living in the rural settlement? Because in essence, it has to be like there should be fairness. But what are the challenges that rural people are experiencing, and that it becomes an injustice to them? So looking at the picture, what we see old women that are carrying buckets of water on their head, meaning that we can just deduce from the picture to say that an injustice issue that is happening here is that there is lack of water. So there is no water in this community of Amatole, which is an example of that area that we find in the Eastern Cape. What is also highlighted here is that the taps remain dry, and that's affecting the villagers or the 40 villages that we can find in this district. And then every day people have to wake up at what time? They have to wake up at 4 a.m. to collect water. And they have to make sure that they drink water. I mean, they collect water before the cows and the pigs could be let out to go and drink water from the stream. So This is a case study that was done with one of the residents in those areas and other elderly women there. They pointed out that the water there is murky, it's brownish, it's not clean, and then they have to collect the water to cook and clean there. So why do we have such a problem? It's because in this community, there's communal taps that people should be accessing water there. And then, but even the water supply there is intermittent. It's not a regular thing. So the challenge is that about 33% of these taps are not working. Some are broken. And then the survey also found that a very large number of, there's a large number of overflowing waste, wasting the water that is in there, in the reservoirs. And the other challenge is that because there's leaking break pressures there of those tanks. So this is just but a summary of what's in this case study. Identify the social injustice in the case study. For 1 mark there, name 2 reasons why people staying at Amatole don't have access to tap water. And then for 4 marks there, then discuss 3 challenges faced by the rural communities because of the rural-urban. Oh, this is the question that, yeah, okay, I will still leave it on there. And then suggest 2 strategies to improve rural settlement. So because of these social injustices, we do have people that will opt to migrate from these rural areas, okay? Then what are the strategies? That's the question that I've just read there. So when we look at this picture and the case study, the social injustice there is that people or elderly women not having access to water. So that is the injustice issue. Name 2 reasons why people staying in Amatole don't have access to tap water. It's in the case study. Hence I said, read your sources thoroughly so that you can have the answer straight from there. On about 33% of the taps are not working. There's overflowing reservoirs. And then lastly, there's leaking pressure tanks. All this is mentioned in this part of the case study there. Any 2, and then that would give you your 4 marks there. Okay, this question, we have looked into it, discussed the challenges faced by the rural communities, is that only old people stay behind, young people move to the cities, and then that decreases the production, and then also shops and schools close down there. So those are the challenges that are faced by the rural communities there. Buildings are abandoned, giving rise to ghost settlements, and resources become underutilized. So all this, it's linked to the rural-urban migration question that we've already spoken about. And then the other issue is that we've got family units that are broken, and then grandparents have to, like when children are, grandparents are left behind when children have to go and work. And then also there's poverty as well as brain drain. So what are the strategies that we can employ to improve rural settlements? We are saying provision of the basic services such as water, housing, health, that is basic. They improve the infrastructure. So people should have access to pipeline water or taps where they can access water. And then we are saying that there should also be creation of more job opportunities. So furthermore, these are the other strategies. The land reform should be accelerated, upskilling of the farmers, and improving of the conditions of people that are living in the rural areas. So this, it still is the same question, promoting tourism and also promoting subsidies so that we can have more of economic activities taking place in the rural areas. Right, boys and girls, we are now moving on to urban settlement. There, And then this is just an example of a column A, column B question, where the statement was saying the process whereby there is an increasing percentage of country's population is concentrated in urban areas. So when the increase in percentage of people living in the urban areas, that is your urbanization. Increase in the number of people living in urban area, what do we refer to that? That is urban growth, which shouldn't be confused with the rate. So how fast, when you start talking about the rate, you should look at how fast is it happening, how fast is urbanization taking place. So the rate, it's we're looking at the speed at which it's happening there. But if we're saying we're looking at just the increase of the number of people that are living in urban areas, that is an urban growth. The process whereby people move from urban areas into surrounding rural areas. So the key word there, people are moving from. So you must take note of the from point there. It's your urban areas. And where are they going? They're going into rural areas. So it's counter urbanization, because when we speak about urbanization, we're talking about an increase in percentage of population that is concentrated here. So now if people are moving away, that is countering. It's an opposite of what urbanization is. So counter urbanization. Increase in the actual physical size of an area, it's urban expansion. We spoke about that also in the other question, where we were looking at that cartoon which showed it, the urban area expanding, and therefore it's moving closer to the rural area. So urban expansion there. Unplanned spread of urban areas, that is urban sprawl. And then decreasing number of people living in the rural areas. We spoke about that concept as well. It's rural depopulation. Arrangement of settlements in an area from the smallest to the largest. So when we look at how settlements are arranged, it's what we refer to as the hierarchy. So we know the smallest, it would be your isolated farmstead, the hamlet, then we have a village, the town, the city. So that is a hierarchy. So that's how settlements are arranged, from smallest in terms of the size and the functions that we can find there. Provide a letter from the sketch that best matches the descriptions. Note that one letter may refer to more than one description. So these are the statements. A settlement, which is an example of a typical gateway town. So the key word there, it's a gateway town. You look at the diagram in terms of what you need to do before you attempt this question. You must look at the key there and have a clear understanding of what is happening. We can see there's the railway line, and we can see this is the road. These are your mountains. This is the mountain ranges, and then there's the industries that we can identify there, and then farming. There's symbols that we can see there, and then we've got mining. This is the symbol there. So all these statements are linked to the key that is also indicated in the diagram there. So number 2, we're saying the settlement that provides services to a predominant farming community. So here the key word is predominant farming community. And then the settlement where one type of transport is replaced by another. Okay. So here we're looking at transport replacing another. Okay, so there's one type there. Then the settlement which represents a specialized town. So the key word there, it's a specialized town, meaning there is one particular main function that is taking place in the town. Right, those are your statements. Number 5, the settlement where a junction town can be found, and then the settlement that will never develop into a secular shape. So meaning there is some form of a barrier, so it will never develop into a secular shape. So looking at all these statements, you should be able to already indicate and identify the features that you can see on there. So it will never develop into a secular shape. So it can only be limited to other shapes, but it can't develop into a secular shape. And then East London and Port Elizabeth are typical example of the settlement. All right, so those are your statements, and then you've got the diagram, right? For us to still do the answers, we will have the diagram to refer to. A settlement, which is an example of a typical gateway town. The correct answer there is C. When you look at the settlement that we're talking about there, it's this settlement C. Where do we find the settlement? It is found within the mountain gaps. So this is your mountain range, and that town is developed within between the mountain gaps there. So it's your gateway town there. The settlement that provides services to a predominant farming community. We've got the farming community from the key, and then if the settlement, there it is. And then what we have, we've got settlement that is around it like that. So that would be settlement A. The settlement where one type of transport is replaced by another. So from the key, we know that these are it's a railway line and this is the road. So which settlement has a change of mode of transport from one to another there? It is settlement F. So goods can be coming in into this settlement, and they can be transported from road to rail or from rail to road. So that is that. A settlement which represents a specialized town. So what activity is dominant here? It's mining from the key there. So this settlement, it has its special function, which is the mining town. So you find your mining towns, you find your recreation towns there that we have. Furthermore, the settlement where a junction town can be found. So this is where we have a junction of roads or even of a railway line. So major railway lines. So it is the settlement, and that's settlement B there. The settlement that will never develop into a secular shape. So what is the barrier here? The barrier is the ocean. There's the ocean, and so it means there's the coastline there. So this settlement, it can't develop into a secular. Why? Because it is barred by the ocean there. So settlement F there can't be a secular. East London and Port Elizabeth are typical examples of this settlement, where we see your coastal cities or towns like East London and Port Elizabeth. We've got a break of bulk there. One mode of transport is changed and replaced by another. So that is typical in East London as well as that. All right, we're looking at the Eben hierarchies there. Choose the correct concept to make the statements true. The diagram above illustrates what? Is it an Eben or profile or an Eben hierarchy? Then a conurbation is a large urban area where several towns have joined together, e.g. the West Rand or Johannesburg East Rand. And then the smallest settlement in the diagram, is it a farmstead or a hamlet? The next question, the town or city has a larger sphere of influence. The city or the metropolis has more high order services. Right, so those are your questions, and we also have this table that is linked to this section of urban hierarchies, where we talk about your threshold, your range, as concepts that we learn about in that section. The minimum number of people required to support a business, is it a threshold or population, or is it a market area? The maximum distance that a customer is willing to travel to buy something at a central place, is that a range or is it a market area? Last question, old buildings in a city are not maintained and painted decay. There's a decay set, and this is termed, is it an urban blight or urban renewal? Right. So we're looking at this diagram that is showing us the hierarchy, or the arrangement of settlements from the smallest to highest. So this would be your smallest, and this would be your largest there. So the diagram above illustrates what? An urban hierarchy. And then a conurbation or a city is a large urban area where several towns. So here we're looking at several towns that have joined together. And then the other thing that you also need to underline there, a large urban area. And then what is important in this question, it's you have to read your example that they have given you, West Rand, Johannesburg, and so these are your regions. Unlike when we look at just several towns, which if they are interconnected, I mean, larger than a town, we would have a city. But what makes this correct is the fact that we have your West Rand region and your Johannesburg East Rand region. So the correct answer there is a conurbation for that. So you can see there, it's your largest there. The smallest settlement in the diagram, is it a farmstead or a hamlet? The correct answer is a farmstead. The town or city has the largest sphere of influence. So the largest sphere of influence, it's a city there. So it's over a larger, it pulls from far. And then the city or metropolis, it has more order services. So which of the two has got more high order services? Would it be a city or a metropolis? Obviously, it would be a service center that is quite bigger. So that would be a metropolis, right? From the column, the minimum number of people required to support a business, we refer to that as a threshold. So whether it's a spaza or what, but for it to make profit, it would have a certain number of people that must get service from that every day. And then the maximum distance a customer is willing to travel to buy something, that would be your range. It's that is the maximum distance that you're willing to travel to obtain something. All buildings in a city are not maintained and painted decay and this is called what? An urban blight. So those are your answers there. Boys and girls, I'm going to pause here for a minute, and then my colleague Rina will continue from here and then to the next topic, which is your economic geography.
Welcome back, boys and girls. I will continue with the rest of the lesson for today. We are busy with urban land uses. Refer to the sketch showing the rural-urban fringe labeled A. Where is the rural-urban fringe located for 1 mark? State 2 urban land uses that are evident in the rural-urban fringe. At A, give 2 reasons why the rural-urban fringe is becoming more urban in nature for 2 facts, for 4 marks. Why is the rural-urban fringe an attractive location for the development of gated communities? A gated community is that secure housing estate with guards and controlled access. Okay, let's look where, just go forward. Explain 2 possible negative impacts to the development of gated communities in the rural-urban fringe. Okay, where is the rural-urban fringe located? It's a very good question, yeah. And the answer is it's the area between the urban edge and the rural periphery. It's also an area where rural and urban functions are mixed. State 2 urban land uses in the rural-urban fringe. It's modern industrial estates. It's that one there. And we will also have retail parks. You can see it's this area here. Then you can read it off the diagram there. Give 2 reasons why the rural-urban fringe is becoming more urban in nature. Cheaper land is in the rural-urban fringe, which makes it a favorable location. Improved technology allows people to live further from the urban areas. They can phone or work on a computer or talk to someone on a computer. And then it also creates a peaceful environment with some nature close by. Counter-urbanization is encouraged. We encourage people to move from the urban to the rural areas. Development of infrastructure is there. Decentralization of businesses, take the central businesses out of the CBD to the rural areas, and it promotes a higher standard of living. Why is the rural-urban fringe an attractive location for the development of gated communities? Those secure estates with guards control. It's cheaper land and it's ideal for a large area that is required. There's more space for multifunctional purposes, sometimes a shop, a garage, schools are sometimes in there. It's away from the polluted area as compared to the urban areas. There's better security and less crime because it's a gated community. And then better service provision in the area, better roads, there's electricity, better schools, better hospitals in some cases. Explain 2 possible negative impacts to the development of gated communities in the rural area, rural-urban fringe. Physical and social divide between communities we can find there. Reduce social interaction between the different income groups. Limit movement for the general public. Difficult to enter there. Physical, sorry, that one I did. Reduce limited movement for the general public. Force traffic to few public routes causing traffic. Disrupts the urban planning and reduce the community cohesion. Refer to the photograph. We are busy with another settlement issue. Refer to the following photograph and a graph of an urban issue. And then they ask you identify the urban issue. account for high traffic at 8 o'clock and at 5 o'clock? What is the trend shown by the graph with regard to the travel time on peak hours? Describe the negative effect this trend may have on commuters. Suggest 3 possible strategies in which the urban issue in the photo can be reduced. Answers. Identify the urban issue. If you look at that, you see all those cars there, and your answer will be traffic congestion. Please remember to write the word congestion there and not only traffic. Account for high traffic at 8 o'clock. There's 8 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock, that is then at 8 o'clock, most of the people are going to work or your social amenities. And at 5 o'clock, people are traveling home back from work. So they want just, I think it might be 1 times 2, but it is 1 times 2. I thought it will be 2 times 1. What is the trend shown by the graph with regards to the travel time on the peak hours? You see there, you look at your key, travel distribution curve and the travel time distribution curve. Travel time increases during the peak hours. We saw that. We also answered it on the previous question. Describe the negative effect this trend may have on the commuters. Commuters may be late for work if they're stuck in traffic. They may lead to commuters that might get warnings at work for being late. It may result in retrenchments. People are losing their jobs. Commuters have to spend more money on fuel, as it's also taking fuel if you are sitting in this traffic with your motor vehicle. It may result in a high level of accidents. It may result in road rage. People are not very patient. Smash and grabs can increase, like crime activities. Loss of income. Some people work for hourly work, so if they're late, they might lose income. Stress and anxiety, and that's it. Suggest 3 possible strategies in which the urban issue in the photo can be reduced. Introduce viable forms of rapid and safe transport, public transport, commercial decentralization, take the busy areas out of a central place, stringent regulation and the monitoring of public transport, staggered hours, flexi time. Don't let people go to work at the same time. Use of ring roads and bypasses, park and ride facilities, charging cars to enter the CBD, let them pay for entering the CBD. One-way streets to speed up traffic flow. We'll come to that one. Multi-store parking bays with specific drop-off and pick-up points for public transport. Encourage a lift club so that people can drive together, and synchronized traffic lights. Okay, boys and girls, this brings us now to economic geography, question 2 for tomorrow. And we have various options, and we have questions relating to the diagram. Manufacturing forms part of the which sector? Tertiary. It's actually, you can also have secondary there. What is the total value of goods and services produced in a country and in 1 year? It's the gross domestic product. Always make sure you know that. 213, what contributed the most to the GDP? So therefore, which province? You will have to look there, and the answer is there, and you will see that it is Gauteng with that 34.94. You have to be able to read some statistics. What contributed the least to the primary sector? The least. So you had to go and check there where are all your primary sectors, and then you can see there. and then you must make a choice. So I'll say agricultural, forestry, and fishing was 2.5%. Mining and quarrying is 8%. So your answer is agricultural, forestry, and fishing with that 2.5%. We are just busy reading off stats. The secondary sector contributed how much to South Africa's economy? And it's 17. How do you know that? You go, that is secondary. Construction is secondary. That is tertiary, 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 tertiary. So if you take that 13 and you add the 3.77, you will get to the amount of 17%. The tertiary activities that contributed the largest percentage to South Africa's economy. So you take everything there and you go and see which is the tertiary sector that contributes the most. And you will see it's finance, real estate, and business services. 217, the 4 provinces that contributed the least to the GDP had a combined total of. Then you had to take this 4, add it up, it's a little bit mathematics to get 20.4%. And then the Northwest province contributes only 5.89% as it is highly industrialized. The primary sector is highly developed. It focuses mostly on tertiary activities, or it has a large quaternary sector. And you can say the primary sector is highly developed. Okay, then we come to this one where you only have to choose the correct word. The dispersal of industries away from the core areas, disperses away from the core areas. Is it known as industrial decentralization or centralization? And if it goes out, if it disperses, it is decentralized. An initiative that promotes industrialization along major routes, is it called Spatial Development Initiative or Industrial Development Zones? And it is your Spatial Development Initiative. 323. Industries that are located between the raw material and the consumer, they are called bridge, in the middle between the raw material and the consumer. An oil refinery, is it classified as heavy or light? It's heavy, it's big area that they use, it's big machineries. Food processing factory, is it a primary or secondary economic activity? It's a secondary economic activity. The sector of the economy that is associated with research and development is the quaternary sector. A coal-fired power station, is it raw material or market orientated? And it is raw material orientated. The prescribed agricultural product for this year is sugarcane, and there is your map on sugarcane with a case study and the questions. From the map, identify 2 physical or natural factors that promote sugarcane farming in KwaZulu-Natal. According to the extract, what has caused the domestic demand for sugar to decline? What is the negative economic impact of a reduced domestic demand of sugar on small-scale sugarcane farmers? And explain the economic importance of sugarcane farming to the South African economy. I'm going to rush a bit because of time. From the map, identify 2 physical factors that promote sugarcane farming in KwaZulu-Natal. And the answer is the availability of water. It's close to the ocean. Then the latitude, it's between 27 degrees to 32 degrees south. It's on the eastern coastal belt that receives a lot of rainfall. It's got a humid climate because of the Indian Ocean and the warm Mozambique current. And then KwaZulu-Natal has got a subtropical climate. The number 2, according to the extract, what has caused the domestic demand for sugarcane to decline? The introduction of sugar tax or health promotion levy. They don't want us to eat a lot of sugar. What is the negative economic impact of a reduced domestic demand of sugarcane for small-scale farmers? It will reduce the sales. They will earn lower income, which will reduce their profit, unsold harvest or financial loss. And then sugarcane is highly perishable. It needs to go to the customer very quick. Inability to pay taxes or to pay wages or services or banks. A lack of diversification for support and limited access to the export markets to supply. Explain the economic importance of sugarcane farming to the South African economy. Always you start with, it provides employment. The income supports household food security. It increases government revenue. They earn taxes. Then we have the multiplier effect that stimulates the economy. Other factories also use sugar. It contributes to the GDP. I want to advise you that one and that one you must always write first. Raw materials, it gives raw materials for secondary activities and it stimulates industrial development. It improves infrastructure because they're building roads. The rural development, or it supports rural livelihoods. It exports, can earn foreign exchange. It encourages agricultural investment. It reduces the reliance on government or social grants. And it reduces the need for food imports. There's a lot and you only need to write 4. The prescribed mining product for this year is gold. Choose the correct word from those given in brackets. Mining is part of the primary or the secondary sector. The largest gold reserve in South Africa, is it in Mpumalanga or Gauteng? The cost of exporting gold from Gauteng via harvest, is it high or low? The fact that gold is non-renewable favors or limit gold mining. A social factor limiting gold mining is labor strikes, low thermal gradient in gold mines, any one of those 2. More foreign income is earned in South Africa if gold is exported as a raw material or a processed product. And number 7, mines earn more profits from exports when the price of minerals is low or high. Okay, let's go to the answers. Mining is part of the primary sector, always. 2, the largest gold reserves in South Africa is in Gauteng. The cost of exporting gold from Gauteng via harvest is low because we are far from the harvest. Ne? The fact that gold is a non-renewable resource favors or limits gold mining. It limits because if it's finished, it's finished. The social factor limiting gold mining. Is it a labor strike or the low thermal gradient? It's labor strikes because if they don't do the work, there's nobody that's going to do it. More foreign income is earned in South Africa if gold is exported as a raw material or a processed product. You will always get more for anything if the product is processed. Mines earn more profit from exports when the price of minerals is high. That's very, very easy. The prescribed core industrial area is the PWB Gauteng, and there's for us a case study. Mention one main industry in the Gauteng industrial region. It's chemical industries, iron and steel, metal processing, and explosives. What problems are Gauteng likely to face because of unreliable electricity supply according to the extract? The answer is in the extract. Lost production, there it is. Increased cost, there it is. And then plant closures. It's all there it is, plant closure. So those are, it's from the extract, so you get that marks very easy. State two physical factors that influence the location of this industrial region. Availability of raw materials located on fairly flat land. Water is available from the Tukwila under Lesotho Highlands Water Scheme. In a paragraph of approximately 8 lines, explain why the PWV Gauteng Industrial Region is a preferred destination for the Ford Motor Company international investors. Many skilled or unskilled laborers ensure a high level of productivity. A well-developed infrastructure providing essential services. Capital and technology to maintain high levels of production, a wide variety of raw materials to support industrial development, and a dense or a large population that creates a readily available market or higher purchasing power. Flat land facilitates the development of industries, a well-developed transport system, the OR Tambo International Airport for access to international investors, a wide variety of established secondary and tertiary industries. Any four out of that long list. The IDZ that you need to study is the Durban Trade Port. Identify the core industrial region on the map for which agricultural product is Tongaat well known. Give a climatic reason for the growing of the agricultural product. So here they have combined the prescribed product with the trade port. Explain how the Dube trade port can be an advantage for the agricultural product grown in Tongaat. Discuss the economic importance of the agricultural product grown in the Tongaat for the Durban Pine Gum Core Industrial Region. How will a natural disaster, for example flooding, negatively impact the economy of the Dube trade port? Identify the core industrial region. There it is, Durban Pinetown Core Industrial Region. For what product is Tongaat well known? It's well known for sugar cane fields. There it is in the passage. Give a climatic reason for the growing of the agricultural product mentioned. They have, we did that also, Nana. Warm temperatures, high humidity, high rainfall, frost-free area. 244. Explain how the Dube trade port can be an advantage for the agricultural product grown in Tongaat. It's located near the King Shaka International Airport for export of perishable products. It's got efficient road, rail, and air transport connectivity to distribute products. And the farmers in Tongaat can take advantage of advanced farming techniques, modern irrigation system, and research facilities to improve productivity and crop quality. The trade port features world-class warehouse facilities ensuring temperature-controlled environments. By being part of the Dube Transport Network, agricultural producers in Tongaat can have access to export incentives, trade facilitation services, and global partnerships. And they can create jobs in farming, packaging, logistics, and sales, which contributes to the overall economic growth of Tongaat. Discuss the economic importance of the agricultural product for the Durban Pinetown Core Industrial Region. It supplies raw materials to sugar mills and refineries, supports agribusiness and food processing industries that produce sugarcane, ethanol, and other byproducts. The multiplier effect, for example, Beacon Sweets. It contributes to exports via the Durban port, boosting trade and revenue. Industries, particularly in manufacturing, rail, and logistics, were formed, and we have infrastructural development, cheaper prices on sugar products, and job creation. I actually want to say job creation you can add in first. How will a natural disaster like flooding negatively impact the economy of the Durban trade port? The flooding will destroy the sugar fields, leading to reduced yields and financial losses for the farmers. Waterlogged soils can cause delayed planting and harvesting, which affects the sugarcane production and profit margins. Roads, bridges, and buildings can be washed away or damaged, which disrupts transport and the daily life, which will result in high costs to repair that. Businesses and shops may experience flood damage, crop losses, and closures, which will reduce economic activities. The repair and reconstruction costs place a strain on the economies and the residents and the municipalities. Then the STI that you need to know is the Maputo Development Corridor, and give evidence from the extract that confirms that the Maputo Development Corridor is a successful initiative. It shares there it's an extremely busy corridor, high trade value between South Africa and Mozambique, and it says also a total of 4.6 million people, 730,000 vehicles, and 87,000 trucks, here it is, across the border annually, which means it's very busy. Which core industrial area benefits the most from the Maputo corridor? It's a Pretoria Witwatersrandvereniging region. Name 2 infrastructure facilities that support the growth of Maputo corridor. It's the N4 toll road and a rail corridor, as well as the Lebombo-Rezano-Garcia border post, the port and the terminal facilities at the port of Maputo. Refer to the statement trade is largely outward bound. What does the statement trade is outward bound mean? It's most of the goods and products from South Africa are transported along the Maputo corridor and exported at the Maputo corridor at the Maputo harbor. Comment on why this type of trade is an advantage for South Africa. More foreign exchange can be earned. When we sell it, we will have improved infrastructure, and there is the multiplier effect that encourages trade opportunities everywhere else. It creates employment opportunities. Then the last topic in economic geography is the informal sector. And there's a picture showing you the formal sector and the informal sector. Many people are self-employed in this sector. Which one is it? The sector which makes the largest contribution to the GDP of a country. The sector that generally shows a small profit margin. Businesses are on streets with makeshift shelters and is used in this sector. And then greater job security and benefits prevail in this sector. Businesses are not registered with the South Africa Revenue Service, or machinery and up-to-date technology is used in this sector. I want to encourage you to stop the video here, try to get the answers, and then we are going to give you the answers now. Many people are self-employed in this sector. It's the informal sector, this one. The sector which makes the largest contribution to the GDP, it's the formal sector. Number 3, the sector that generally shows a small profit margin is your informal sector. Businesses are on street with makeshift shelters. It's the informal sector. 5, greater job security and benefits prevail in the sector. It's formal. Businesses are not registered with the South Africa Revenue Service. It's informal. Machinery and up-to-date technology is used in the sector. It's formal. Boys and girls, we encourage you to open up this link. There are a lot of map work videos which you can follow in preparation for tomorrow. And then we just remind you to be seated by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Have all your stationery with you, a blue pen, a pencil, eraser, ruler, highlighter, protractor, and calculator. If you need some of these, ask your educator to borrow to you before the exam. Use your 10 minutes reading time to make sure you understand what you need to do. Follow all the instructions clearly. If they ask for an alphabetic letter, you give an alphabetic letter. Don't rush through the paper. You have a lot of time. You have your 3 hours to finish the paper. And then answer every question. Do not leave a blank space. Make sure you answer everything. Manage your time. For example, 60 minutes for question 1, 60 minutes for question 2, 45 minutes for question 3, and then the last 15 minutes to go through all the questions. Before you start, take a deep breath and relax. From my side and Ms. Zondi's side, we want to thank you for joining in the past year. All the best with the exams, and hopefully we don't see you next year, but we wish you all the best. Thank you very much and goodbye.